Hello, I'm Corey Hello, and welcome to another episode of Critimation, where I review animated TV shows and films. As always, I do not own any of these films or shows. They are properties of their respected owners. Our first topic will be the Garfield Show episode, Long Lost Lyman. For those of you who don't know, Lyman was a Garfield character early on in the comic strip. Not only was he John's roommate, but he was also Odie's original owner, both which are referenced through flashbacks of this episode. However, he was removed from the comics early on for no in-universe explanation. This special is basically the closest we have to what became of him. Part 1 of the special begins with John watching a report on a Bigfoot-like creature called the Zabadoo. When his nieces come over, John explains that he watches these specials because they remind him of Lyman, who had left after being hired to take a picture of the Zabadoo and never came back. After seeing some rare footage that was taken of the Zabadoo, John recognizes a hat that he was wearing as the one he gave Lyman for luck before he left. Part 2 is basically Garfield doing a pointless fantasy sequence to cheer up Odie, who begins missing Lyman. But it ends with John decided to go to Afghanistan, where the Zabadoo lives, to go rescue Lyman. When the group arrive, they meet a guy named Angie who agrees to help them track the Zabadoo. They also encounter an explorer named Duck Dingdom and his assistant Bucky, who are planning to capture the Zabadoo for profit. After John and company see the Zabadoo scare off some poachers, they follow it to its lair and discover that it's really Lyman in a costume. He explains that he discovered the Zabadoo was really a doctor, and that he had been using the legend to try to protect the forest animals. After he died, Lyman took over his job. Unbeknownst to anyone, however, Dingum had followed them, and took pictures of Lyman so that he could prove the Zabadoo was a phony. Thankfully, Garfield snatches the camera, and a chase pursues, leading them straight to the real Zabadoo. After it chases off the bad guys, Lyman takes back Odie, who he had left in John's care in his absence. After a tearful goodbye, the group part ways. But shortly after returning home, Lyman arrives to drop off Odie, deciding that he was better off with John. The episode ends with Lyman promising to find a substitute Zabadoo to fill in for him so he could come by for a real visit, and Garfield, grateful that Odie is back, plays fetch with him. While I haven't seen much of the Garfield show, I do think that this is the closest we'll ever get to knowing what happened to this long-lost character, and I hope that they reference Lyman in the upcoming animated film from Sony Pictures. I would recommend this episode to anyone who's a longtime fan of the series. Our next topic is the Teen Titans episode, How Long Is Forever? For Starfire, the episode begins with her wanting to celebrate Blowthog, the Tamaranian holiday of friendship. But when she goes to greet her friends, they are all fighting. After one of her necklaces breaks, Starfire yells so everyone will stop and warns them of the Rekmas, meaning that eventually they'll drift apart and their friendship will die. After Robin reassures Starfire that they will remain friends forever, they get an alert of a crime in progress. At the museum, they encounter a villain from the future named Warp. And despite their best efforts, Warp manages to defeat the Titans and steal an artifact. But before he could return to his future, he is attacked by Starfire and they end up going through a wormhole through time. During the fight, Starfire damages Warp's suit and they end up separated. She finds herself in front of the Titan's tower, now in ruins. What's inside? She finds Cyborg, who informs her that 20 years have passed since she disappeared. What's worse? The Titans have broken up. Due to becoming obsolete and low on power, Cyborg cannot leave the tower to help Starfire find Warp, who Starfire believes can fix all this. He does direct Starfire to where Beast Boy and Raven are. She finds Beast Boy at a carnival, now billed as a freak show, using his transformation powers to entertain, but is now a shell of his former self because of this. Raven is no better, as she has locked herself away from the world and believes that all her friends were just illusions, suggesting that she has gone mentally insane since Starfire disappeared. What's alone? Starfire is ambushed by Warp and overpowered. Despite Starfire demanded he fix things, Warp claims that history cannot be changed, and that the reason the artifact he stole disappeared was because he went back in time to steal it. Before Warp was able to finish Starfire off, a mysterious figure ambushes him and forces him to flee. The figure is revealed to be Robin, now going under the name Nightwing. Once safely in Nightwing's hideout, Starfire believes that nothing can be changed. Nightwing, however, remains hopeful, knowing that in the past the Titans have been able to do the impossible. He then takes out the old Titans communicator and contacts the other Titans. One by one, the Titans reappear and fight Warp at his hideout, but before he can escape, his suit is damaged once again and he de-ages into a baby. Before stepping through the portal to return back to her timeline, Starfire asks if this really is the Titan's future. Nightwing hands her the artifact, symbolizing that things will be okay, and Starfire goes back to the past. Once home, she tells her friends what happened, and while there was still some uncertainty about the future, she remains hopeful that they will remain friends no matter what. For a standalone episode, this was a very emotional one. It reflects how things can change over time, especially after you see people you haven't seen for a long time. And sometimes, these changes aren't always good. Raven in particular was very symbolic, because her white cloak and the whiteness of the room she's in suggests that she's in an asylum, as her cloak could be seen as a substitute for a straitjacket. And while the future is indeed scary, all we can do is remain hopeful that things will turn out alright. I would recommend this episode to anyone who's a fan of the series but is looking for the more mature side of the storytelling. Our last segment is centered around the Woody Woodpecker cartoon, Wet Blanket Policy. The show opens with the then popular song, The Woody Woodpecker Song, which was performed by George Tibbles and Rami Idris. Ironically, an instrumental of this song would later become the official theme song for the franchise as a whole. Once the song finishes, con artist Buzz Buzzard causes an accident for Woody Woodpecker, and then forces him to sign an insurance policy for accidental death that would earn Buzz $10,000. What follows is a series of gags with Buzz trying to kill Woody. Eventually, Buzz tries to send Woody into an alligator pit, but ends up in there instead. After being chased out, Woody proceeds to tear up the insurance policy, and in the cartoon. Not only did the opening song get nominated for Best Original Song, but it also marked the debut of Buzz Buzzard, who proved to be a more popular adversary than Woody's then regular foil, Wally Walrus. Ironically, a similar character appeared in the Donald Duck cartoon, The Flying Jalopy, which was also directed by the same person who directed this cartoon. I would recommend this cartoon to anyone who's a fan of the series but is tired of seeing the same walrus go up against Woody. I think the cartoon's biggest strength is the fact that Buzz proved to be a more threatening adversary to Woody, and therefore gave Woody a more satisfying victory. Thanks for tuning in to Critimation. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and follow me on Twitter, or support me on Patreon. I'm open to suggestions, and I will see you next time.